This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and Sakurako. So we're finally seeing Sukuna activate, I guess, his ultimate ability, which is Fuga, the big fire arrow thing that we saw him use in Shibuya against Jogo and Maharaga, and he's about to use it against Yuji. That happens at the end of the chapter, so of course there's a lot that we have to go over. So coming off of the previous, we saw Yuji essentially awaken, as it was said, by hitting Sukuna with black flashes, and after that had happened, he awakened his own proprietary version of Sukuna's curse technique, Cleave, where we saw it manifests through these scissor cutting marks on things, which is pretty interesting. So now Yuji has Cleave and blood manipulation, which we'll get into because it's further explained in this chapter. But coming into this one, we see that due to Yuji hitting Sukuna with so many black flashes, apparently it was 7, and hitting him in between the boundary of Sukuna's soul and Megumi's soul, because we have to remember that Sukuna is still currently taking over Megumi's body, and they're both inhabiting the souls at the same time. And Yuji, reading Tsukumo's diary that she left behind about soul research, he figured out how to basically hit between souls, or just hit souls in general, as he has been doing against Sukuna throughout the majority of this fight. So doing that has basically stopped Sukuna's ability to use reverse curse technique, as well as dampen his cursed energy output in the process as well. So that's why Sukuna still hasn't regrown his 2 left arms. Currently, he still only has his 2 right arms. And I guess he still has that gaping hole in his chest that Maki hit him with, possibly. It's hard to make out in this chapter, but I assume he still has that. Or if he doesn't, let me know in the comments if he healed that or not. Can't really see in this chapter. But you might be thinking, well, Sukuna is probably going to lose at this point. The cards are stacked against him. The MC is finally getting his late series big power up where he's just overcoming the villain. Well, no. Sukuna still has a lot of tricks up his sleeve because he activates his domain expansion Malevolent Shrine once again. We haven't seen him use this since his fight with Gojo. That fight took so much out of him that he wasn't really able to use it again after that. But this is Sukuna after all, and he obviously has unrivaled knowledge of Jujutsu. I mean, I guess it could be argued maybe Kenjaku is a close second, and then Gojo might be third or up there, but he obviously understands almost every single nuance of Jiu-Jitsu. So that being said, he's still able to activate Malevolent Shrine again despite his back being against the ropes here. And even the narrator is kind of unsure of how he's doing this, because he says, including uncertain components, a post-Black Flash Sukuna reproduced Malevolent Shrine with impromptu binding vows without lowering its output. So yeah, Sukuna with those binding vows once again, I guess, activating them in his head. Who knows what they are? They're usually something kind of simple once it's actually revealed to us. For example, the last binding vow that Sukuna made that was revealed to us, at least, was how he took out Gojo. At that time, he made a binding vow to be able to use the World Cutter Dismantle against Gojo with one hand, by making a binding vow that every time afterwards that he were to use the world cutting slash, he would have to use hand signs and chants. So it kind of puts him at a disadvantage every time after that, because he's giving you the tell that he's going to do it, but just so that he was able to kill Gojo at that one specific time. So that just gives you some insight into what these binding vows are like, especially with Sukuna. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Tokyo Treat and Sakurako. Tokyo Treat is a monthly pop Japanese snack subscription box where you'll get up to 20 of exclusive limited edition and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks, including Japanese instant ramen and drinks that are only available in Japan for a limited time. While Sakurako is a monthly Japanese artisan snack box that supports local Japanese snack makers, and each box comes with 20 traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese tea and a special Japanese tableware. They also come with these great booklets that give you information on all the snacks in the box, as well as Japan and its culture. For Tokyo Treat, this month's box is Ninja Snack Venture. Adventure into Japan's most elusive and mysterious world of ninjas. This month's Tokyo Treat box is packed full of sneaky surprises of savory and sweet ninja-inspired treats. Explore the thrilling history and hidden flavors only found in this month's box. For Sakurako, this month's box is Flavors of Hakone. This month, Sakurako partners with the Kanagawa Prefectural Government for a limited edition, specially designed box inspired by the tranquil lake shores and therapeutic waters of Hakone. We invite you to discover Kanagawa's breathtaking natural beauty and indulge in authentic and local flavors that reflect the region's rich culinary heritage. And this month's tableware item is the marquetry plate. So I know you were definitely eyeing that katana candy sword, so let's try it out. And it also comes with these pretty cool shurikens. And the candy gum inside is pretty good. It has like a nice citrusy flavor. So I also had to try the spicy ramen noodles. These are super flavorful. I was really excited for these. And they're also inspired by Korean style ramen, which really kicked up the flavor. Then I tried the Endo pea chips. These have tons of umami in them and pack a punch of pea protein as well. And then of course the special Japanese Kit Kats that we get every month with Sakurako, and this month it's chocolate orange. As always, they are divine. Some of the best candy I've ever had in my life. Really need to try these yourself. So we always have to try the tea that we get with the Sakurako boxes because, like they said, it pairs with everything in the box. And this month we're trying the Ryokucha or green tea, and it has like this really nice fresh flavor to it. It's very good. Next we tried the peanut macaroons. These are so delicious. It tastes like crunchy peanut butter, but with a nice Japanese twist to them. Then I tried the Yokohama chocolate crunch. These taste even better than they look because it has a combination of rich dark chocolate and sweet white chocolate. Then I tried the 7 flavors of Arare. This was so crunchy and so flavorful. So guys, you can get your very own Tokyo Treat and Sakurako boxes by going to my link in the description for yourself or a loved one because they make great gifts. And make sure you use code Zhoniin to receive $5 off your first box. Thanks guys. So he did something like that, I guess, to be able to activate Malevolent Shrine once again, as well as with some other quote-unquote uncertain components. And it looks very different here. It looks like some kind of Final Fantasy final boss creature. It doesn't look like the typical Malevolent Shrine because the typical Malevolent Shrine actually looks like a shrine. It's based off of the real-life shrine of Michizane Sugawara, a character who's actually mentioned in the series. You probably heard me mention him a few times in my videos, but Gojo said that he's a distant relative of both he and Yuta, and then he eventually became like one of the big 3 vengeful spirits or something. Don't know if he's ever going to come back. That's besides the point. Apparently, Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine looks like this now because it's an incomplete domain. I guess with his hindered cursed energy output from the soul punches that he's been taking from Yuji, along with all the damage from the battles, you know, mainly against Gojo and everyone else, and I guess the uncertain components and the binding vows, this is the best that he can really produce at this point. But it's still ridiculously powerful because as soon as he activates it, it goes off, similar to how it did when we first saw it like fully go off in Shibuya. And it's still not a closed domain. Like that's kind of like the hallmark of Sukuna before we saw Kenjaku do it, like having an open domain with no barrier where it had like a binding vow on it where it could expand its radius in exchange for allowing the opponent to escape, because you can technically just run out of Sukuna's domain. Like if you run out of the bounds of it, then you won't get hit by the cleaves or dismantles that rain down on you. However, it's such a big radius, you need to be like as fast as Gojo essentially to be able to escape it before you get killed, because normally, you know, with a domain domain expansion, it'll be comprised in a sphere and you'll be trapped in it. And the only way to get through it at that point is like brute force, or you overpower it with your own domain. Or if you're just like Maki and have heavily restriction and you can just bypass it because you have no cursed energy. Which is actually what Sukuna was kind of worried about in this chapter, but he could still hit Maki with the slashes that come with the domain expansion anyway. But as he is destroying this entire radius here with all of the sorcerers in its vicinity, we cut to a flashback from the 1 month time skip. This is the time that happened after Gojo was unsealed and before he fought against Sukuna, where we see Hikari, Choso, Shoko, Yuta, and Yuji and Maki all pretty much going over like the pre-planning coming into this final battle here. And they're mainly talking about reverse curse technique and anti-domain measures, because Yuji doesn't have either of those at this point in time. I mean, we know that he does currently, but coming into this training, he didn't. And we're essentially finding out more nuanced stuff on reverse curse technique, like the healing aspect of Jujutsu Kaisen, where Shoko reveals that you basically just convert cursed energy like into blood. So that's how you would compensate for that, because you can regenerate like a limb or something, but then you also have to have the blood to go into it and everything. So it ultimately all just comes down to cursed energy just producing a facsimile of what was lost, I suppose. And I also like how Choso is asking Hikari and Yuta like how they do it, and Hikari's like, well, I don't know, my reverse curse technique is on full auto, which is, you know, funny because when Hikari activates his domain expansion, which is essentially like his curse technique at the same time, like he has to use his domain expansion, once he hits the jackpot, which is inevitable, he just gains perpetual reverse curse technique. Like he doesn't really have to do it himself. And as for Akotsu, he's just a genius, so he could do it instinctually. He doesn't really have to think about it and explain to you like, oh, I just convert cursed energy into lost blood. Like he just does it. He can't explain it. So Shoko, like I said, is the one that has to explain it to everyone here. Shoko being the best healer that we currently know of, I suppose, other than like Sukuna and Kenjaku probably, but given what Sukuna said. But as for Shoko, I don't think we've still seen her currently. We know that Yui has been taking like the wounded / dead away with his teleportation curse technique, which we'll get into because it's actually getting explained in this chapter. But I assume it has something to do with Shoko, especially since she's being brought up here, and also the whole explanation of converting cursed energy into lost blood. Maybe that has something to do with what she's doing with helping them. We've talked about this many times. I do think that it's going to come back into play. Like she has to have some kind of grand purpose here. We still don't even know where a curse technique is. But anyway, speaking of the cursed energy into blood stuff, it turns out that Choso's body is special and that he doesn't even really have to do this. It like does it for him because of his curse technique, blood manipulation. Back in the day, Kenjaku took over the body of the old 400 years ago Nord Toshikamo and then made the Curse Room death paintings, and then one of the 3 successes was Choso. He was like the best success, somewhere between a human and a curse. So with that curse technique and his special body that he has, he doesn't have to use as much cursed energy as you normally would with using reverse curse technique. It's almost kind of like how Gojo's 6 Eyes works, but to a way lesser extent. So that being said, Yuji is now inheriting this like passive ability as well, because we found out that Yuji did in fact eat the rest of the Curse Room death paintings that Choso was able to recover from Jujutsu High before they had all met Tengen, which are in a way like his brothers or stepbrothers, because Kenjaku took over the body of Kaori, who is Yuji's mother, and he gave birth to Yuji. So Kenjaku is, in a way, I like literally Yuji's mother, and also like literally Choso's father. So yeah, Yuji and Choso are step brothers. And now that they both share that blood manipulation, Yuji now has that curse technique after eating the Curse Room death paintings. And with that, he gains that passive ability to just convert cursed energy into blood. So he doesn't have to use as much cursed energy as you normally would with reverse curse technique. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get on to how Yuji learns simple domain. So we saw during the 1 month time skip as well that, really iconic sequence with Yuji seemingly swapping bodies with Kusakabe. And we've been wondering for a while now, like, okay, how was he able to do that? Did Yuji learn some kind of soul manipulation other than him just hitting you and then hitting the barrier between souls and whatnot, as we've seen him doing with Sukuna? No. In a surprising twist, Yuji has not learned the ability to swap souls, so that completely debunks any kind of theory that I had or anybody else had of him swapping with Sukuna and then like having everybody kill him while Sukuna is in his body and vice versa, so that, you know, Megumi could come back. I'm not saying that something like that won't happen, but at least we know for now Yuji does not have like a soul swapping ability, because it turns out that it's Yui that can do this. Yes, the little brother of Mei, the one that we've been seeing teleporting around, taking the injured and dead away from the battlefield, you know, mainly Gojo's body. His curse technique is way more nuanced than we thought. It's not just simple, you know, point A to point B teleportation. It actually goes farther into just straight up taking people's souls and then swapping them between vessels. And we actually get a little more explanation of it, because Yuji is a little more privy to the soul stuff, you know, because he had a big encounter with Mahito. You know, that was like his first big villain in the series, aside from, you know, Sukuna being set up early on. But Yuji's like, you know, according to the technique that Mahito used, if the shape of the soul is changed, it seems to change the body too. So then if we swap, won't the shape of our souls and bodies get strung along? And Yui's like, no, don't worry. He's essentially taking the soul without actually touching it. I mean, this is like a very broad explanation of it, but he uses an analogy of like opening a box that contains the soul. And he's doing this without opening the box. He's kind of just taking the box with the soul in it and then swapping it. If he were to like take the soul out of the box, the figurative box, then it would alter the bodies and whatnot. But Yui's like basically doing it without breaking the seal, I guess you could say. So that explains how Yuji was able to swap with Kusakabe. It was freaking Yui's ability this whole time. And it makes you think like, man, he could have done this to other people. Like, he could have did it with Gojo and Yuji, or he could have did it like on the battlefield, like swap Sukuna's soul with somebody else. I mean, it's implied here that it needs to be consensual, I guess, for this swap to happen. So I guess you can't just forcibly, you know, take Sukuna's soul and then put it in, you know, some human's body and then just annihilate him. But anyway, they're doing this soul swapping so that Yuji can learn the simple domain from Kusakabe faster. Because if Kusakabe is in Yuji's body, then in theory, he can just maintain muscle memory from Kusakabe activating simple domain while he's in Yuji's body. Like, that's literally what the explanation is here. And Kusakabe actually says that Yuji has been able to evolve so fast because Sukuna took over his body a few times and, you know, used his special grade, you know, jujitsu and everything, to which Yuji's body just learned inherently. But it's kind of a bad analogy here, to be honest, because Kusakabe says that, well, you know, your body has the memories of a special grade sorcerer, so the speed at which you learn things is abnormally fast. Kind of like with sports training, when you keep training things over and over and over again, your body will remember it. And it's like, I get that, but Sukuna only took over Yuji's body like, what, 3 or 4 times for like a couple minutes? It's, you know, a little too quick, but, you know, it is Yuji after all. And we did find out that he is the son of Kenjaku, but also Yuji's dad, Jin, is the reincarnated soul of Sukuna's brother that he ate in the womb. I don't know why it took so long for the father to reincarnate, but, you know, it is what it is. Yuji is a special vessel, of course. So, you know, he just has MC biased. He can learn a lot faster. So, all of that being said, Yuji now has simple domain because of all of that stuff, and he activates it in response to Sukuna using Malevolent Shrine here. But we're also finding out that Sukuna can only use the Malevolent Shrine for like 99 seconds because of, you know, all of the restrictions and with his cursed energy and the binding vows and basically him being exhausted at this point, along with having like the incomplete domain that it is. So basically everybody just has to survive for 99 seconds and they're all activating their simple domains. However, Yuji can't maintain his, and the cleave and dismantles just busts through it eventually, like Yuji can't hold it. And he winds up getting his freaking leg chopped off. Now, normally this wouldn't be a big deal because Yuji can just use reverse curse technique and grow it back, but Yuji's back is against the wall as well. Despite him being awakened with the black flashes and everything, he's still not 100%. He has been taking a beating as well. But, we just found out with the blood manipulation stuff that it's not as taxing on him or his cursed energy output to do this anyway, so it'll probably just be healed in the next chapter or something, if he does survive, because as soon as Yuji's domain breaks and his leg comes off, from the automatic cleave and dismantles from Malevolent Shrine, Sukuna activates Fuga. But we're actually seeing the same kind of chant that he used to open it against Jogo and Maharaga with the open. Apparently, it says furnace and then Fuga, or it just says open. I guess we'll just have to wait for the official translation on Sunday to fully see what he's saying here. Because, the black box was always just like a black box on the screen. It was never like revealed what it was actually saying. But I guess it's like furnace or stove or kindlin, like kamino or kamado in Japanese. And of course, this is supposed to like parallel to Sukuna's like cooking and eating theme, because I guess it all comes back to him eating his brother in the womb. But we've seen cleave and dismantle. When they were first explained, it was shown as like 2 pairs of sushi knives, and now he has like the fire for cooking. And like we've seen in the Crunchyroll translations for Malevolent Shrine, it was translated to Malevolent Kitchen. So yeah, there's like an eating, cooking type of theme to Sukuna's power set here. Now, as for him activating the Fuga, we're not seeing what happens with it because this is just the end of the chapter. He's activating it with his 2 right arms because, like we said, he wasn't able to regenerate his 2 left yet. Now, we haven't seen it since he used it in Shibuya, and we still don't know like what this is exactly and why he can do it. We do know that Sukuna's curse technique is straight up Shrine or Malevolent Shrine. Pretty sure it's just called Shrine, despite what the Viz translation says. Now, considering that Yuji inherited Shrine, as we knew that he would, as Gojo said back in season 1 that his body would learn it, we've only seen him use cleave. So it's like, did Yuji take Shrine and then cleave was a part of it that came with it? Or is Shrine, cleave, and dismantle at the same time, and then Fuga is something else? Is Fuga not even a curse technique? Is it just something that, I don't know, Sukuna could do or something? I'm going to assume that it is a curse technique, because how else is he doing this? We haven't seen, as far as I know, anything like this. Usually abilities come down to either it being an inherent or just a learned curse technique or something like that, or it's like some kind of base jujitsu thing that you can do, like simple domain, for example. Like anybody that's a sorcerer can use like simple domain or domain amplification, things like that. Falling Blossom Emotion, Hollow Wicker Basket. There's also the other stuff that Kusakabe was able to do, like generating that like cursed energy blade, but more nuanced stuff like making a freaking giant fire arrow that has like a nuclear explosion attached to it. That's not like a base jujitsu thing that anybody can just learn. So it's probably a curse technique, and maybe Shrine has the ability to have multiple. Now, as for how Sukuna got the multiple, maybe it parallels to how Yuji got his multiple curse techniques, because we saw that he ate the Curse Womb Death paintings, and then Choso said that he would gain blood manipulation from that, which he did. So is this confirming, the speculation that we had about Sukuna all this time, is that he is eating people and gaining their curse techniques? I don't know if it's that simple, because he would have been eating people at this point to get their curse techniques, kind of like All for One, how he just takes quirks that he, likes in My Hero, he just immediately takes them from people. It's more simple for him, but you'd think that we'd be seeing Sukuna eat more people. He did chomp on Angel, but obviously he didn't take her curse technique, Jacob's Ladder, or at least it hasn't been shown that he has yet. The only one that has really been eating or implied to be eating and taking curse techniques is Yuta. So I guess this is something else. Not really sure, but this could be the most powerful thing that Sukuna can do, because while he used Malevolent Shrine on Maharaga, it didn't like completely, take him out. It was ultimately like Fuga that had to do that, right? And it seems like he's been waiting for a while to use it. He didn't even use it against Gojo. I don't know, maybe there was some kind of binding vow in place or something, who knows. But I would love to see how Yuji is able to handle this, or maybe Yuji just prevents him from fully activating it or something. But, we'll see what happens in the next chapter. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen with Sukuna's Fuga. What do you think it is? How do you think that he got it? And if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.